In this tutorial we are going to use EasyBallistics to create location-based damage, in other words, headshots. So here's our basic setup. Okay, I can start it, and this guy has about 1000 hit points, so if I shoot him say 3 times, it should be enough to kill him. This is all done using Unreal Engine's built-in damage event, but we are going to scrap this because we are going to create our own event that will, in addition to just damage number, also contain the bone that was hit, and we are going to multiply damage based on that. Now, the easiest way to do this would be to simply create a custom event and just trigger it from the bullet. However, I'm going to do it in a slightly more complex way that will, however, work in more complex scenarios when you have multiple types of characters and multiple types of bullets. So I'm going to use a interface for this. So let's create a blueprint interface and let's call it simply custom damage. Let's open it, and we are going to create a function called, I don't know, just damage, like this. And it's going to have some inputs, of course. That will be the amount of damage. And as I said before, we are going to use the bone name to select which part of the character got hit. So let's call it bone. Let's go back to our character, and of course it's going to implement this interface. So let's see, here it is. And now we can add our damage event into our event graph. And of course we can now remove this any damage thing. And I just noticed that this receive damage function, in case of this example project, requires a instigator object for multiplayer. So we are going to change this so it will also take a reference to object, and it's gonna be instigator, like this. So now our enemy character takes the damage via this custom damage event instead of regular damage. So if I start the game and shoot him, as you can see, he's not getting damaged. So we are going to have to change the bullet blueprint as well, so it outputs this custom damage. Let's remove this whole damage function, and since we don't have any destructible objects in our project, I can remove this as well. I'm going to reconnect this here. So the impact multicast which makes sure that other players in multiplayer can see the bullet impacts. This will stay, and let's take our actor. Of course, this is the actor that just got hit, and send him a custom damage message, just like this. Now, just like in a previous tutorial, we are just going to base the base amount of damage on the impulse, just the length of this vector, and the instigator will be the instigator of this bullet. In other words, just like this. And of course, we are going to connect the bone name as well. Let's compile the whole thing and let's see if it works. And as you can see, I can now shoot this guy, and it works more or less the same as the built-in damage. But now that we have this custom damage event that also returns the bone that got hit, we can now vary the amount of damage based on that. So let's quickly check what's the name of our head bone. It's called simply head. Okay, so let's get this name and check if it equals head. Let's add a select node. So-called just select, and now we can select which value we are going to send to this input pin based on whether this is true or not. In other words, if he gets hit in the head, we are going to multiply damage by, I don't know, 5. So float times float times 5, like this. And if it gets hit anywhere else, we're just going to use the straight damage number without any changes. Let's test if it works. So if I just shoot him in the chest, it takes 3 shots, but let's aim for head. Boom, headshot. So that was pretty simple. Now, of course, we can get a little bit more creative. So let's pretend our enemy is wearing a bulletproof vest. So how would you simulate that? The simplest solution would be to simply reduce the amount of damage by some flat number. However, we can get a little bit more realistic and actually check if the bullet got stopped by the vest or not. So if we go to our bullet blueprint, as you can see here, our on impact event outputs the penetration depth parameter. What we have to do is to somehow send it to our enemy blueprint. So let's go to our custom damage and add one more input, and it will be a float, and it will be just called depth. Now let's compile this. Let's recompile this, and let's recompile this, so we can see this parameter everywhere. In our bullet blueprint, we are just going to output it. That's all that has to be done on this side. And let's go to our enemy blueprint, and first we are going to check if this depth is big enough. So let's say if it's greater than, or let's assume our character's body armor is the equivalent of, say, 30 Unreal units, like this. So if this depth parameter is less than 30, it's going to output false. If it's more, it's going to output true. And now let's add another select. And we're going to do this. So if it's true, it will be returning the real amount of damage. And if it's false, it will be just 0. Now let's combine it with this. So this whole body armor thing will not apply if I hit the enemy in the head. So let's see if it works. Now, as you can see, I can just shoot him as many times as possible, and it doesn't do anything. Headshots still work. Now, the reason why it doesn't do anything is, of course, because the minimum penetration needed is more than what this bullet does. So let's reduce this value a little bit. So let's make it 10. Okay, now I should be able to shoot him. And if I, however, shoot him at a grazing angle, like this. Oh, sorry, I'm missing. Like this. As you can see, the bullet doesn't have enough penetration, and most of the time it will simply slide off. However, since the penetration is randomized for this bullet, it can be anywhere from 10 to 20. Sometimes it will go through. Of course, you can get more creative than that and say vary the amount of armor based on body part, or you could maybe set non-penetrating hits to still do a little bit of like chip damage. And really, this is up to you. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments.